On behalf of NTU Singapore and AICTE Ministry of Education, I'd like to welcome all of you for the Singapore India Hackathon Launch 2023.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to you and all the distinguished guests gathered here today for the launch of the Singapore India Hackathon 2023. This hackathon will be the third edition, following the first Singapore India Hackathon way back in 2018 and the second in 2019. The first Singapore India Hackathon was initiated in 2018 by the Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi, on an official visit to Singapore, with the goal to harness and showcase the innovation potential of the youth of both countries. The recommendation was met with strong support from our Singapore Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, and NTU had the honor to conduct the hackathon together with our counterparts in India, the Ministry of Education, All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE in short. Our collaborators such as AICTE, Confederation of Indian Industry, MAS, Enterprise Singapore, SG Innovate, and others will provide problem statement and mentorship to the participating students and startups leading up to the final hackathon in August and beyond to ensure their growth and success.
May I now invite Minister Gan and Minister Pradhan to please come on stage with the Singapore High Commissioner and light the lamp to launch the hackathon.
First of all, I congratulate both NTU and AICT for their continuous effort to fulfill the decision of visionary leadership of both our Prime Minister. In a way, this is the 6th year and 3rd edition of Singapore India Hackathon. In the beginning, if I cite two statistics from Indian side, in the age group of 15 to 25, there are 250 million youngsters are there in India. I am happy, I am confident when we will be meeting in the month of August in Gujarat, we will have a substantive outcome in our hands. And we must have a clarity how we will make it an institution. And it will be a continuous effort. I wish all the best for this hackathon, participant of this hackathon, and NTU and AICT and other academia. I can see we all will come together to fulfill the responsibility which Prime Minister Modi has envisioned in the name of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Entire humanity is one family. We have a one aspiration, we have one responsibility. Thank you, friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to join you this morning at the launch of the Singapore India Hackathon 2023. This hackathon is part of Singapore's and India's cooperation in skills development, especially for our youths. Skills development is a key area of cooperation between India and Singapore. India, through programs such as Skills India, is capitalizing on its demographic dividend. Like India, Singapore also invests heavily in adult learning and upskilling. And by working together, we enable our people to have more opportunities to learn from one another's ways of thinking and doing. And this helps them to sharpen their skills, improve their competencies, and secure better jobs. I look forward to the solutions that will be presented in August at the finals of the hackathon, as our response to India's clarion call for us to be one world, one family, and one future. Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here this morning, which is the launch of India-Singapore Hackathon 2023. The hackathon, as envisaged by our leaderships, provides an opportunity for both countries to deepen their partnership and build a better future by fostering innovation and collaboration. The intangible outcomes of the hackathon are equally important, as they can contribute to the development of human capital, entrepreneurship, networking, and friendship. Participants can learn new technologies and acquire industry and university skills which can be applied to the S&T sector, including fintech and sustainable development sectors, leading to development of new solutions and ideas. So I wish all the very best in the ongoing hackathon and really look forward to more engaging interactions between our two countries. Thank you very much for having me here this morning. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for attending this launch of the hackathon today. We very much appreciate it, and I just want to add one small matter that a lot have been said about how the hackathon is going to enable greater collaboration and innovation between India and Singapore. And there's one group I explicitly want to mention in this closing statement are the NTU alumni who are sitting here today. And the NTU alumni are a great manifestation of the partnership between India and Singapore. And of course, we hope that out of the hackathon, there will be far more alumni that will understand each country well and that will help build businesses and partnership between us. So with that, I look forward to seeing many of you at the hackathon proper in August. And it will be a great opportunity to see what the outcomes of the hackathon have been. Thank you very much.
I'll let the moderator take it from here and introduce our guests and start with our first panel on fintech.
We all seem to be in an extreme funding winter for startups over the last 12 to 14 months. But Asia seems to be that beacon of hope. America's funding is down, EMEA funding is down, Asia is at par, a little bit higher. What in your view is contributing to this?
So my understanding is that Asia is the rofer of innovation in the world. The challenge has been that did we ever have risk capital or not in the country? You know, I mean, look at the Indians. We are the ones, or Asians, we are the ones, and at large, Indian, Chinese, I'm going to include everybody from Southeast Asia, Asia. If you go in US and you see the biggest of the corporations in technology innovations, they're driven by the minds and brains of Asia. That we in Asia have obligation to solve our country's problem in the mobile age by ourselves, because if we were to pick up the solutions that were happening in the West, they have not solved for us. If the West model of financial services was successful, then it would have been, financial inclusion should have not been a problem to be looked after, because we've been following that. And once the citizens of our region started to use mobile phone, it meant that we can build solutions led by mobile phone, which, to be clear, is not the case when you look at the rest of the world.
The Asian demand was so high, and the kind of solution which was designed for Asia came from the Asian ecosystem. So it is made for Asia strategy, which really helped Asia to be the significant hub in this space. Now, your question on policy versus what happened because of the policies, I would say a mixture of two. We had policy implementation supporting startups or supporting financial sector fintechs to get into the financial sector as a regulated entity, did pay huge dividend to us as part of the policy shift. But more importantly, I think, Navin, is that the role regulators played in enabling public infrastructure. Similarly for Singapore, having a pay now infrastructure or a SG Index infrastructure, the role of public infrastructure, the SingPass infrastructure, Aadhaar equivalent, played a huge role in getting fintech to succeed.
As a startup, your brand is built around what you do first, before where you do it and how you do it. And what we did in the first instance was to build a digitally focused life insurance company. Life insurers had traditionally been very person to person. We started our brand by positioning ourselves digitally. We did it in Singapore first because Singapore's regulatory environment was one of the most well-respected financial services regulatory markets in the region. And the thought process at the time was if you could be successful in Singapore, you could probably be successful anywhere because it's tough. So it's about singularity of focus. Once we were able to demonstrate a credible, capable product in one place, it's only possible then to move on to the next one. And as we did, we then moved into Philippines and broader as we built the Singapore Life business from there.
Singapore being a center and things being developed,
Sure.
is it relevant to Asian market or ASEAN market? You know, one thing Singapore does well is the regulation part. What we say that you bring a solution which is adaptable for an Indonesian market or an Indian market or a Thai market, but take our regulation. Ultimately, the regulatory aspiration from each of the country is to have high standard regulation. So you bring your model, operate to Singapore regulation standard, you have the best of both. So I think that's where Singapore plays a big role. To give you the regulatory strength you need to have to operate in the market, ultimately you're taking a risk.
The funding sources will change. Today we are paying from our bank account. Tomorrow we'll pay from all the asset classes or the funding sources that you could change. For example, like it could be credit, it could be insurance, it could be wealth. So real-time payment from a wealth account, we saw the flare of this in China. Real-time payment from insurance account, that will be the innovation obligatory again from Asia. So for example, like you are in a hospital or a pharmacy store and the payment is showed up, the QR is showed up, you are scanning. In real time, you are figuring out what is the real-time adjustment.
Which pocket to take it out.
Which pocket to take it out, and you are showing the payment. So I think once the rails are clear, then innovation on the merchant and consumer side are the next level of innovation. I'm very proud to tell you that we started to build a consumption credit buy now pay later. Mostly buy now pay later is associated with a lifestyle, meaning I want to buy an iPhone, but I have only 15,000. That's an EMI product that India is very fabulously doing and so on. I am fabulously surprised, and I'm fantabulously surprised. You will be surprised with as low as 1,000 rupee or 500 rupee credit. So, you know, this is what I so much love about it, that India has solved the problem of giving 500 rupee and 1,000 rupee credit with the loss ratios that are very, very fractional is the word. The word is in few bips. The loss ratios are in few bips.
I actually feel that it's not blockchain everywhere kind of thing. Really, it's going to be specific areas. I think it was everywhere. It's past the period of time that is a lot of hype. It's going to come down to some real use case. So I've moved on to a company called Chaina. We basically build exchanges. We're not a crypto exchange, but then we build crypto exchanges. And within the exchange, if you look at the exchanges, maybe a central exchange of the country or maybe other smaller exchanges, they are mostly manual. And if you look at the crypto exchanges, they are highly automated. Yeah. So just the exchange tag alone, from wallet as a service or listing capabilities, I think in the capital market space, that will be the first one that you can take the tag out of the crypto ecosystem. That will be the first biggest opportunity. POCs on digital assets, but for sure outside of crypto, that's the biggest opportunity yet to be broadly explored, but we're seeing lots of potential there. And then with the crypto winter, also a lot of banks are taking the opportunity to address the demand for digital assets or digital currency in some form via securitization, tokenization. It's not really taken off from a profitability perspective yet, but the tech from the Web3 space is definitely going to help in that area.
When you are trying, if you're a parent and you're trying to send your kids to the UK to study, and you have to open up a bank account in the UK, and let's say you're from Vietnam, it's very difficult for you as a Vietnamese to open up a bank account in the UK. The DD and the KYC and AML takes a long time. Not to mention, even if you're a UK company or citizen, to open up a bank account with Barclays or HSBC takes forever. But the arbitrage came from Wise, Revolut, and some of these other digital banks. So you know, what I'm saying is that the Asian population is growing richer, the middle class is growing wealthier. The middle class has aspirations where their travel and spending are global, not local. How do you address the needs of that middle class segment that's growing up? That is the ultimate middle opportunity for fintechs in Asia.
Okay. I think in the future, the next level of technology is no longer going to be about payments facilitation. It's going to be about changes in the change in ownership of money, not in the physical movement of money. So money will stay in one place. It's just who owns that money will change rather than actually sending the money from one party to another. I think that's the next layer of innovation in our space, and I think Asia is absolutely perfectly suited to do that.
We can't really solve climate change with an app or a software. We really need investments into advanced materials, into carbon capture technologies, new ways of generating energy, new ways of dealing with plastics and recycling and all that. These are fundamental challenges. I think the Gen X and Gen Y created these problems, and it's up to us now to hopefully reverse some of these problems and find innovative solutions around them so that our children and future generations have a planet to live on.
On that somber note, let's thank the panel. Thank you very much for your time.
So Neil, the first question to you. So you are the president of Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce. Where do you see these two countries collaborating as far as ESG is concerned?
I think Singapore and India have a lot to work in common. First and foremost, if you look at just disclosure. So as you may know, many exchanges, including the SGX, is going to come up with mandatory rules for disclosure on climate.
So I think pension inclusion or micro-pensions, which is what we do, is, I think we are where Professor Yunus was 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, it seemed to be a mad idea. You know, I mean, how do we give out small loans to people and how do we collect payments back? Today, I think the situation, we are much luckier. So mad ideas even have a better chance of succeeding purely because of, let's say, the DFS or the digital ecosystem and infrastructure that has been built. If you look at India, for instance, and to your question as to why do we have such a large pension coverage gap, the answer is actually very simple. Pensions traditionally is a benefit that accrues as a result of an employment contract. Right? So if I'm a civil servant or I'm working with the Tatas, I have a contract with an employer, and when I retire, I get a pension. Now, unfortunately, 90% of India does not have an employer. You know, the farmers and street vendors and Uber drivers and others, they don't have an employer, therefore they don't have an employment contract, and therefore they will not get a pension benefit for 20, 25, 30 years of their lives when they're old. What we do is, what we look at is how can we leverage the DFS ecosystem that has been created with, you know, through a PPP between the Government of India, regulators like RBI and private institutions to create, let's say, Aadhaar for eKYC or use UPI for making it easy and simple for somebody in a village to start saving for old age.
In India, you know, the insurance is clustered around the middle class and it's available to the more affluent. So the low income and the more marginalized, you know, are underinsured and underserved. And that is debilitating for a society and a nation, right? I mean, you talk about banking. Banking is important for the economic development of a country. Without health and life insurance, that can create financial instability. It can actually impact social safety nets. It can increase the healthcare cost burden for a society, and it can result in instability from an economic perspective. So it's critical to address the protection gap. I work for AIA. AIA is the largest pan-Asian life and health insurer with presence in 18 markets. In India, we have a joint venture with the most trusted name, Tatas. Our purpose, AIA's purpose, is about helping people live healthier, longer, better lives. And what is a best-kept secret, according to me, AIA is actually the largest life insurer in the world by market capitalization in 2022.
Every university, every city, every country has a unique set of problems, but also a unique lack of use of levers to find solutions to those. So if we think about NTU, of course, the primary goal of any university is to educate, but it has to do two other things as well. It has to innovate and it has to elevate. The innovation has to be in the real world. So the point was made on the previous panel, how does NTU manage to be so successful at innovation? The answer is actually quite simple. We partner extensively with companies. And these companies can be anything from multinationals through to SMEs through to startups. But we partner with companies, and this is very important because it means that our students can see the real-world applications of what they do.
From a private equity investment standpoint, it's very important to invest with people who have the right values. I think that's paramount. Back in 2015, before it became fashionable to be investing in ESG compliant companies and products and various things, we, the partners of the firm, decided that it was an important priority for us. So let's start and focus on what we've done right. I think it's important to be consistent. Very simple. The temptation to veer away from the focus is very high because often there is a difference in returns, especially earlier, between ESG compliant investments and non-ESG compliant investments in the same area. So if you're an investor and you're trying to maximize returns, there is obviously a temptation to go for the highest returning asset.
So are we doing ESG because of regulation? No, we're doing ESG because of, one, it's aligned to our philosophy, because we want to endure for the next 100 years, and secondly, because ESG is integral for us to future-proof our business, to deliver on our purpose, and to create long-term value for our stakeholders. Our stakeholders are our customers, our employees, our suppliers, our partners.
You know, it goes back to regulation, but it also goes back a little more than regulation. I think there has to be an overall acceptance that financial goals are not the only goals to meet. The shareholders are not the only stakeholders to satisfy, but you have an obligation to society as a whole and different stakeholders.
If you're looking for a solution which is viable, you must understand the market well. You must take this very complete approach. This is what's important. So, you know, this will be a very intensive competition. So what I think is, take advantage, the students in these groups, take advantage of the fact that you're coming from two perspectives, India and Singapore. This gives you some unique leverage, some unique understanding which other groups will not have. First of all, look what you're going to do, the problem you're going to solve, look at your perspective from each country, come up with a solution which will be across both of those. If you can integrate your thought in that way, then I think your chances of success are much, much higher.
This is Rahul Singh. I'm the Assistant Director at NTU, and it has been a wonderful to share a panel with you. I hope that students and startups who are listening, they take away something from the message that you gave.